All right, cool. Let's dive into this this blog post from Raven. I read a little bit of this and very curious to see what the community thinks, what a lot of different people are about to say about this blog post, because there's some really heavy, really big stuff going in there. Let me go ahead. Let me just like zoom in just that way it looks a little bit better. All right, so this is from Raven Software, the Call of Duty Warzone community update, road to season 1. Okay. All right. Hey everyone, with all the exciting Black Ops 7 updates coming out of Treyarch these last few weeks, we want to take a moment to share some updates of our own about Call of Duty Warzone as we draw closer to season 1. Our focus for the year ahead boils down to 3 pillars: Battle Royale, Resurgence, and the future of the game. That's already kind of a W, because those realistically should be the only things you care about. So we're going to start with Big Map Battle Royale. It's the foundation upon which we've built every new mode, feature, and memorable moment. And while we continue to innovate across the entire game, we feel it's important that Battle Royale remains a cornerstone of what we do. That's why we're expanding Battle Royale to include support for multiple large maps via map rotation. While it wasn't previously realistic for us to host multiple large maps, we've since taken the steps necessary to support it. This won't be a launch feature with Black Ops 7, but it's a key addition slated for early next year. So this is something I called a while ago. Unfortunately, I have no proof of this, but this is something I called a while ago, which is that with Avalon, them saying, hey, the final mission of Black Ops 7 campaign is this big multiplayer thing that happens in Avalon. I was like, oh, that means that they're going to already have Avalon the map in the game. So we might be able to get a big map rotation, because like they said, it's always been about file size, but they've reduced just in general the file size of the game recently. And now, because everybody, if you play the campaign, you're going to need Avalon installed. I also wonder if some of the multiplayer maps, you know, like we've seen in the past with like TV Station and Modern Warfare 2019 and a couple other maps, which realistically like kind of have like a low poly version of the entire big map outside of it. I wonder if because of that, we're now going to be able to do a little bit more with big map rotation, right? So to me, that reads as seeing some of the POI updates and stuff they're doing for Verdansk, and then seeing that we're getting Avalon. I'm only fully expecting this to kind of just be Verdansk and Avalon for the time being, but who knows? Maybe we're going to be able to bring back in Al Mazrah. Maybe we're going to be able to rotate in Urzikstan. I have no idea. I think with the older maps, you know, they have to obviously update it for this engine, which I think is going to be, I think, some development effort, whereas, you know, other stuff might not. Urzikstan probably would be my only other one. Now, why I think this is super cool is that hopefully this means that we can now do tournaments on multiple big maps, because I think that'd be cool if we did some Verdansk and some Avalon. Let's say we did get a third map in there, like do 2-2-2, similar to other top tier BR esports that have multiple maps that let you play competitively on them, and a tournament will showcase those different maps and you see teams be better at one map than another. I think that would be really, really cool when it comes to Warzone competitive, to see us also, the second that we get a big map rotation, we start doing a rotation within our tournaments. So that's really cool. Back in the spring with the re-release of Verdansk, we announced that we'd approach change more deliberately to preserve the original Warzone launch experience. We still stand by that, but we're going to increase how often we release updates and refine the way we surface new features to you. The goal is balance, keep things moving without forgetting about seasonal support and quality of life improvements. This is really, really cool, because this is, to me, everyone's just always asked like for more updates, more consistently. And then that way they could just kind of like keep cooking rather than having to wait for like these big season drops that feels like it's, you know, months in between any content that we get. So I like the fact that they're acknowledging, hey, we want to deliver stuff faster. We also want to obviously maintain that we can have seasonal support and obviously still our quality of life improvements. Are we talking about Battlefield Royale? No, we are talking about a huge new blog post by Raven about the future of Warzone. So that's what we're reading and reacting to. So far, to catch up to speed, what we've talked about is Big Map is getting a Big Map rotation, and that also they're going to start releasing things faster for Big Map, which is cool. Here we go, Resurgence, which is, I know a lot of people are very excited or interested about Resurgence, what they have going on here. We've heard you loud and clear. Rebirth Island and the broader Resurgence experience have started to feel a bit stale. Yeah, because every time you give us a map, you take it away. So to start, we're delivering a full refresh to Rebirth Island in Season 2, which includes new POI updates, a cosmetic pass, and several other upgrades that improve flow. W, this is great, okay? This is sick. We love that. New POI, keeping Rebirth Island fresh is sick, right? I think that'd be great. The launch of the new Haven's Hollow map in Season 1 will be another step in spicing up Resurgence. These past months, we made changes based on feedback received during early previews of Haven's Hollow. I had some friends who were able to play this early, and they were like, this is not it. So I'm glad to hear that the feedback they gave has been heard. Looks like they obviously made a lot of those changes at Call of Duty Next. Also took some of the feedback they got from Next, and also have updated some things as well. You know, they say the newest version of the map has already received lots of positive reactions during Next and our internal testing, setting the stage for what we hope becomes a standout addition to the game. As always, we look forward to hearing your feedback once the map launches. Cool. W. Love that. Shortly after launch, we'll be bringing back map rotation to Resurgence, W, which will swap between Rebirth Island and Haven's Hollow. We are also exploring opportunities to bring back past maps in future seasons. An improved version of Fortune's Keep is underway as we speak. Our goal is to ensure that each map room has room to shine without sidelining the ones that you love most. To me, I think the perfect Resurgence rotation, and yet again, I'm going to go back to competitive Warzone, where if we had for things like the Esports World Cup or other big tourneys, where if we could have multiple maps in a tourney set, that would be super, super cool. So if we had Rebirth Island, Haven's Hollow, and even if it's just Fortune's Keep, being able to do multiple, games on each map would be super sick. I want to see Vondel. I know the community wants Vondel. I think I'm going to make a hard read guesstimate here. I think that they are going to they're going to drop Vondel when they need a little content drip, because they're kind of, Call of Duty is in anticipation. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this after I review this, of like, why are we seeing all this information now? I think they still need to have some tricks, some cards up their sleeve. And I think Vondel is one of those where they go, hey guys, because they said, we are also exploring opportunities to bring back past maps in future seasons. And then so this to me, it says, hey, the first one that we're going to bring back is Fortune's Keys. We're going to let you know we've already started working on this. So that way, when they go ahead and announce this, they say, hey, Fortune's Keep, we told you it was going to be the first one. Here you go. But it says in future seasons. So who knows? Maybe in the season after that, or maybe down the line, maybe we get a Vondel that gets added back into this. Maybe we get a revamped Ashika Island with all brand new colors. Maybe there's like because I know a lot of people like Ashika Island minus the colors of it, right? And now with like wall jumping and stuff like that, I wonder, would they, even bring that back as well? Are we going to see maybe in certain seasons, some maps go away, other maps come back, type of things like that. Very, very curious to see what we do there. So, and I think they say our goal is to ensure that each map has room to shine without sidelining the ones that you love most. I actually think that the Resurgence maps already do a really good job of this, like by default. I think each Resurgence map is like so unique in like how it plays and how it feels that, maybe they don't, I feel like they all have their own sort of thing, that was there. I think it'd be super cool to see. Maybe like, I don't know, maybe like Vondel and Fortune's Keep are both kind of like big with like a central middle area, but even then, like, I still think they're super fine. So, it's all good. Looking ahead. Okay, so we've talked about Battle Royale, we've talked about Resurgence. Let's talk about what they're going to be doing moving forward. So moving forward, we're hard at work exploring what the future of Warzone looks like. This means making significant, meaningful improvements on multiple fronts. In the coming weeks, we'll be sharing a deep dive on how we intend to deliver a higher frequency of updates with a larger emphasis on balance changes, no less than twice per season. No less than twice per season, by the way. No less than twice per season. So I feel like one of those is always guaranteed to be a reloaded update. To me, what I think this feels like is they're going to say, here's a new season, here's the new guns. Before the reloaded update, maybe they'll do one tuning pass. With reloaded, they'll do another one. Maybe reloaded brings new guns mid-season as well. And then maybe they'll do one more after that, because that would be 3 in the course of a season, which to me feels good, because they need enough data to validate if something is like hyper broken or not. But they also don't want to, I think, they don't want to jump the gun on any of these changes that are there. So the fact that it says at least, it says no less than twice per season is really, really cool. Our approach to weapon and attachment balance is fundamentally shifting, which means redefined roles at launch, followed by multiple balance passes per season with adjustments entirely unique to Warzone. Regular updates will extend beyond weapons to include shifts in ground loot, perks, equipments, contracts, and much more throughout the year. this is I think this is sort of, so I always like to think that there's like multiple levers and valves that you could possibly change to keep something interesting, right? Content and like the map is just one of them. This is sort of that secondary tier that I think can also help keep the game fresh. Even if it's the same map, being able to you know, have different weapons all of a sudden be added in, have new contracts influence how the map plays. Like they said, perks, like, you know, also equipment, like all of these things, they're adding new things to try and keep the game fresh and at least have you have like a new thing that you can use. That is what's cool. Like if we got to play on Verdansk, like this entire time we've had Verdansk, if we had been getting new, you know, weapon updates and new contracts and all this stuff, it's like, yeah, we're still playing Verdansk, but at least the game is feeling like it's changing. So that's really cool. Like, I think the fact that they're explicitly calling out that it's going beyond just weapons and it's going to be ground loot, perks, equipment, contracts, all that stuff is really, really, really exciting. Really exciting. And I think I'd be very curious to see what that looks like in, you know, that's there. Next month, we'll be sharing our seasonal roadmap followed by a playlist blog. Limited time modes will be designed to give our teams a fast and flexible yet controlled way to play around with new ideas. A testing ground for experimental features such as wall jump and grapple hook. Ah, Blackout's back, baby! That is cool. You'll see the return of several favorites throughout the year, such as buybacks, which will appear as part of our new weekend-only playlist, alongside brand new modes, such as the one that fast tracks you to your loadout. This is really cool. This is something I've asked for a while because they kind of were doing this for a little bit and then like forgot about it. Where it's like we had these LTMs where like you'd be like, wow, this is so wacky crazy, and then you'd be like, wait, this actually kind of is sick, you know, as part of the LTM. We should put this in the main game. And I think this is a way for them to do this. This is like their experience. Well, they actually say it's their experimental grounds, right? It's for a chance for them to try wacky crazy things to see how the community thinks about it. And I think that's really, really cool. And the fact that they're already talking about wall jump and grapple hook, that's just, I think, reaction to the community of everybody saying, hey, we want to see wall jumping in Warzone. And then everybody hearing about Blackout saying, I want a grapple hook. The weekend only playlist is something that's really interesting to me because I think this is their way of, they probably see like, hey, we want people to get on during a weekend when I would assume more players have more time in order to play. And so having these weekend only LTMs, when probably you have your biggest mass of potential player base where you can get a bunch of people to jump in and try these experimental features, makes a lot of sense to me but it still like keeps the game fun, right? Because you're like, oh wow, there's this LTM that's only here for this weekend. You and your friends can hop on, you know, maybe you're sick of, you know, playing ranked or just playing big map all week, or you just want something new to play. I think that's pretty cool, you know. And even for content creator stuff, we've seen like content creators, they love making content around LTMs. They try and go for like kill records, or, you know, like when we had Get High, everybody was trying to, you know, beat their own times and beat everybody else's times. Really fun stuff. So I like that. I think that's really cool. Having weekend only LTMs, I think, is a great idea. Let's see. In season 2, we'll be leaning. Oh, this okay. Chat. This was the. I skimmed this before we went live, and this was the one paragraph that stuck out to me. I tweeted about it. In season 2, we'll be leaning even harder into the content our competitive community loves most. Expect more ranked play camos than ever before. That's a W because the ranked play rewards have kind of sucked for a little bit. We know how important a good private match tool is, and we also know it deserves more attention. I'm yelling for this part, by the way. On that note, we have a plan to mold it into what you need to compete at your best over the coming year and beyond. So when season 1 drops, you'll have the ability to remove players directly from the private match menu before a match begins. When I tell you the amount of times that our tournaments don't start on time because some idiot doesn't know how to hide code, and we get a rando in our lobby and we have to remake the entire lobby for 150 people because we don't have the ability to kick a rando. Oh my God. And I'm going to give you a little sauce here. I don't know this for certain, okay? But I think I know why this happened, because we were at the World Series of Warzone, right? We had already had this huge delay, okay? We had this huge delay on, you know, because whatever private servers they had weren't necessarily working, so they had to go download the game, and everybody then we were like, okay, we're just gonna use the normal private match system. And there were Raven developers here. We had a lobby get reset while we were just getting ready, everyone was kind of like, okay, finally, we're in game. It's looking good. We had to reset a lobby because a rando got in because one of the competitors didn't hide their screen on stream. And so I think Raven probably saw that, was like, wait, what do you mean? Yeah, we should probably let these guys kick people who join lobbies. But I will also say what the most important for me, I'm biased, right? As a Warzone caster, somebody who is involved in the private match competitive scene a lot. The most impactful sentence of this entire blog post is this one. Is on that note, basically it's 2 sentences. We know how important a good private match tool is, and we also know it deserves more attention. So the fact that they're realizing, hey, private matches need some love, and then there's this follow-up sentence of, on that note, we have a plan to mold it into what you need to compete at your best over the coming year and beyond. It's all we've wanted. This is also hypothetically the first acknowledgement of competitive Warzone by Raven themselves. Do with that what you will. And finally, we couldn't be more excited for the arrival of our new Blackout experience in Avalon during Season 2. The success of post-launch modes like Resurgence has proven the value of taking bold but intentional risks. We believe this will embody exactly that spirit. Our team is incredibly excited, and there is much more to come. Stay tuned for upcoming Warzone intel drop with more details and a first look at some of the updates on the way. So there's a lot in there to unpack, and we'll be reacting a lot more to this. But there are a couple key things here. One, I think they're acknowledging some of the biggest things that the Warzone community have asked to be addressed for a while, right? Frequency of updates, map rotations, and updates to the maps that are there. Also updates to, like I said, the guns, perks, equipment, all of that stuff. Well, we've been asking for that for a while. The acknowledgement of competitive is huge. The weekend LTMs is great. Now here's like the real kicker and the moment of all of this. Why is all of this coming out now? And I don't think it takes a genius to realize in 4 days, the Battlefield BR releases, okay? And I think what they're trying to do is get ahead where they have a bunch of Warzone players. They have people who, their main game is Warzone. They love it. And I think what they're worried about is some of these people, they're going to, well, Warzone, what is Warzone doing? Like, what do we got going on here? Warzone isn't making any updates. Like, I'm going to go invest my time into Battlefield BR. So while they're not doing any direct content drop to compete with the Battlefield BR, they're going to say, hey guys, you guys want to go play Battlefield BR? Have at it, have fun. But we're letting you know what's coming down the pipe here in Warzone, a game that you know and love. So maybe people will go play the Battlefield BR for a month or two, right? And with Season 1, when we get some of these things, we get some of these additions, then they'll be able to, they're using this as like their hey guys, when we get ready to drop all of this stuff, we let you know that this is going to happen. So that Warzone is going to be coming back. That you're not wasting your time investing into it. I also think it's a little bit because now they are seeing as well where a lot of people use the multiplayer as a chance to level up their guns for, Warzone and things like that. I could see them also saying, hey, we're going to have all of these updates coming to Warzone. Probably should play some Black Ops 7 as well. So very interesting to see all of this kind of come through and come together. Very excited, as somebody who, is deep in the Warzone scene and loves seeing Warzone successful. I think this is great competition. Obviously, we are seeing about the multiplayer and Warzone side with Battlefield coming out. Like, we're seeing competition is great because we're starting to see some actual real change. So I think this is sick, right? I mean, I want the Battlefield BR to be successful so that we keep seeing stuff like this. And as Warzone continues to innovate, this will force other battle royales to also innovate as well. So realistically, this is just a big W for the community overall. And I think this has the potential, right? Like with all things Warzone, we got to wait, believe it till we see it. But I think this has the potential to be a true Phoenix rise from the ashes moment for Warzone, for them to captivate such a large audience like they did in 2020. So really cool stuff coming out of Raven in that blog. Definitely excited to see what we have more.